Oh, man.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to LDM Radio Sports Talk, the show that talks about sports and other topics relatable to sports fans. Joining me this week again is Scott Blander from Pennsylvania. Hey, Scott. All right. And my Anto Caldero, and we're going to jump right in here. Scott, do we got you over there? So, okay. So, we're just going to start with the baseball season. So right now it's coming down to we are in the Final Four. Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, again, I got it now. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we already said hi to you over here in the
Thank you.
Bronx studio. Glad we got you in. All right, so we're gonna start with the Major League Baseball. So right now we are in the Final Four, and there's been a ton of action since our last show. Right now we have first we're gonna talk about the Atlanta Braves taking a surprising 3-1 lead over the Los Angeles Dodgers. Scott, what do you think about that, and how do you feel as a Mets fan with Atlanta one game away from the World Series?
Well, first, from a baseball fan perspective, I mean that's incredible. I remember a couple weeks ago we were sitting here saying that talking about how the Dodgers and Giants shouldn't have played in the week round before, and that the winner of that basically had a bye to the World Series. Well, the proverbial that's why they play the games. I think it's here, and the Atlanta, is proving that they deserve to be there. So that's pretty amazing, pretty impressive from a baseball standpoint. As a Mets fan, you know, my hatred of the Braves. I mean, yeah, they're a division team, so I'm always not going to root for them, of course. But excuse me. Um, the rivalry, for the John Rocker era, the '99 series, 2000, that whole they were battling for the division in that great playoff series in '99. Like that's so long ago. And the two teams haven't really been good at the same time recently. So I guess my hatred for the Braves isn't all that strong anymore. So I'm just basically enjoying it as a baseball fan. Maybe that's sacrilegious to say as a Mets fan, but I don't really have the hatred for the Braves that I once did. Philly, I'm always going to hate, not just because it's Philly. The division, all division aside, it's Philly, which goes to in every, they're a division rival in every one of my teams. But yeah, I'm not really anti-Braves anymore. That's so long ago that you'll always have the Sox no matter what. The last few years you can add Houston to that, but yeah, it's just it's enjoyable for a baseball. I wouldn't even mind rooting for them. I've always been a fan of the underdog and the historical story, and that's could be what's shaping up here at the Braves. I mean, they're not that much of an underdog, but nobody saw this coming.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get to the Red Sox and Houston in a little bit, but this Atlanta Braves team, you're right. We both thought that it would be just a formality, and whoever won from the Giants and the Dodgers would be able to basically punch their ticket to the World Series. But it's still possible because it's very plausible that the Dodgers could win 3 games in a row. It's not super unheard of, especially what they have like 105 wins, and this has to be the longest, the roughest stretch that they've had probably. Losing 3 out of 4 games. I can imagine this is the only time that it's happened all season. And it's been a really close series. Game 1 was 3-2. Game 2 was 5-4. Braves both won both of those games, and then the Dodgers won 6-5. And then they ended up losing the other night, or 2 nights ago was the biggest one where it was 9-2 Braves really putting their stamp on this series. And game 4 is tonight, and sorry, game 5 will be tonight, and it's the if the Braves actually make it, I think it would be a better story for baseball, especially the Dodgers won last year, and it's kind of like like it would be cool to have somebody else new. Especially, I mean, the Braves haven't won in so long. What was it 1995? The last time they won. That they've been to the World Series a bunch of times, and they had those dominating '90s teams where they had 4 Cy Young winners in the rotation at the same time, and the different things like that. But I think for the Braves and Atlanta in general to have a winner there, because the Falcons aren't really doing too great right now, and they had that the one time they went to the Super Bowl was that infamous super blown lead, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, it's I really like the Braves to come out of this, and I think it's great for baseball. What I do not like is I don't think the Braves, unless they keep up this super team and keep getting the heroics from unlikely sources, which segues us to our next series where we have the Houston Astros with a 3-2 lead on the Boston Red Sox. Now I don't think the Atlanta Braves would be able to take over any of those 2 teams. But, they're right now they pushed the 105 win team to the brink of elimination. So anything could happen. That's why they play the games. But I would much rather the Dodgers take on that task, because I do not personally, or as a Yankee fan, want either the Red Sox or the Houston Astros to win the World Series. That would be awful. But that's where we are, and unfortunately, the Yankees they had a chance to take that over, and the White Sox too. The White Sox were my only hope as far as when the Yankees were down in order to come out of the AL. But now, what are your thoughts on the Houston Astros and a 3-2 lead against the Boston Red Sox?
Well, this is a weird series. Like you just mentioned, the other series, for the most part, each game was close up until the last one. This one is just blowout city for whoever's winning. I mean, yeah, it's close in games, of course, 3-2, but Boston lost the first one 5-4, then wins 9-5, 12-3, and then Houston turns around and wins 9-2, 9-1. That's that's just weird. You don't really expect that in the playoffs. So looking at these box scores, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, 3-2 is still pretty much anyone's series. They are going back to Houston, but stranger things have happened. I remember Houston blowing a lead to the New York Mets in 1986. Back in I'm sorry, they were actually up. They were actually down 3-2 to the Mets. So that never mind. But no, I mean it's exciting. It's there's no rhyme or reason to this. Just the 4 straight games by blowouts, 2 wins by each team. It's certainly not a pitcher's series. It's a hitter's series, and who knows if that'll they could be 1-0 next game. Who knows? But that's an interesting one to watch. As much as you hate both teams, I'm enjoying both teams. So see what happens. My prediction. I think the Red Sox have shown a lot of heart this whole season, this postseason. Remember about after the All-Star break, they started to collapse a bit. I mean, they were running away with things early on, then they started to collapse, and then they had to put together like a 9-1 or something streak, get back into it, and then they went on another mini slide, and then of course that great last 3-6 games of the season for all the teams involved, and they survived that, and and then just swept Tampa, which nobody saw coming. So I know you hate the Sox, but they're actually my. I just for what they've been through and done, I'm actually looking. I hope that they win it. I hope they take it all. The whole adopting San Diego thing didn't really pan out for me, so I'm going to adopt the Sox.
All right, so different than the NLCS. The NLCS is your classic, 2 teams just battling it out, and games going right down to the end, and the late game heroics, and the great storylines. These other ones have been over by like the middle of the game, pretty much for most of the series. So it's pretty much who can get up ahead the most. I think one thing that I know about the Red Sox is their bullpen's pretty bad. So the fact that they were able to jump out to bigger leads helps their case more. If they're not able to do that, then they'll definitely be going home. But yeah, it's every time Houston won, it's like and then it's like the Red Sox won, it's like it's bad. It just sucks. For a Yankee fan or anybody else who's a rival of these teams, I can imagine the Oakland A's. Well, the Oakland A's are probably just going for Houston. I mean, they're just going for the Red Sox, and they're just like forget about Houston. So from a Yankees perspective, and then imagine if Houston and the Dodgers end up having a rematch, and that was from 2017 from the famed cheating scandal that Houston had because they ended up beating the Yankees in the ALCS, and then they went on to beat the Dodgers. That would have probably been the best storyline to come out of this Final Four, is the big rematch of that series. And obviously they wouldn't be like there'd be an extra eye on the cheating, so Houston wouldn't be able to do that. But he looks to be just fine without it. So it's just it's unfortunate that they ended up having to go that route to begin with, and staining tainting the championship that they do have. But we're looking at a situation here where it could be Houston and the Braves. That's probably like the least fan favorite fun one, I think, of all the outcomes that can come out of this.
Houston Dodgers would be very interesting, that big rematch. I know that, of course, Yankee fans feel cheated. Dodger fans feel really, really cheated. I mean, I'm Dodger fans, and they consider themselves the World Series champion. I'm like, well, that's nice, good for you.
Yeah, the Dodgers are like the forgotten victim of all of this on the East Coast.
Yeah, because we're here in the New York area, and everything Yankees. Everybody's like, well, hey, we lost the World Series over here. Yeah, that would be certainly interesting for retribution. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple beanballs early on to set the tone. That's what I would do. I'm a hockey player mentality there, but yeah, I think I think the Braves. You said the forgotten big. I think the Braves are kind of the forgotten, even though they're up 3-1. Surprisingly, they're kind of like a forgotten team in all these. Out of these four. And I think from a baseball fan perspective, while it is somewhat of a Cinderella story, I think there's bigger storylines here with either Houston or the Sox, because they both cheated. And of course, the Dodgers being victims of Houston. So it's the World Series. The World Series is going to be interesting either way. We'll just have to see what happens.
Definitely gets my undoubted support. All right. So we're going to switch gears here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the NHL, who came on bursting on the scene with their new season. So regular 82-game season, the divisions are back to pre-COVID times where, there's the 4 divisions, and you don't have, like the special regional COVID ones that they rolled out with last year. So early on, we have undefeated teams. There's only like 4 games into the season. Florida and Buffalo. So Florida, not as surprising. Buffalo is 3-0, and they do not have a loss, not even a overtime loss. So that's pretty surprising. The rest of the still to be defeated teams, but have an overtime loss is the teams that are undefeated that don't have a regulation loss is Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington, and the Detroit Red Wings. So what is your take on that so far, early season?
Yeah, I think Buffalo was the biggest surprise because they were awful last year. They've got the whole Jack Eichel thing going on, such a distraction. And here they are out of the gate, 3 straight wins to start the season. You never know how a team is going to respond to that kind of adversity. Clearly, maybe that there's, I don't know if this makes sense, but there was so much pressure that there's no pressure. No, that doesn't make sense. Let me rephrase that.
I think it actually does. It actually
Does
does. Like they're basically playing with house money. Everybody thinks that they're going to
yeah,
be awful, and at some point they can still be awful. I mean, they still got 79 games to go. So,
right,
um,
exactly. So you
but
never
might
know
as
three
well.
games in, but it is a surprising and encouraging start for them.
It's awful that their home attendance for their home opener was a little over 5,000 people in
Wow,
a place that in an arena that could hold 17 18,000. That's rough.
that's shocking. I've been there. I've been to a Rangers game up there. I don't remember. I mean, the Rangers won the game. I don't. It was probably like 5 6 years ago. I don't remember how good or bad Buffalo was, but the place was rocking. Buffalo fans are, as we've seen with the Bills Mafia and the crap that they do, Buffalo fans are a very proud, dedicated, loyal bunch, and they only have the two teams. So that's actually very, very surprising. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, I think the Jack Eichel situation has really been I'd say a black eye for everybody involved because Jack Eichel is waiting to have a surgery, which actually hasn't been performed on a professional athlete before, where they put in like a synthetic disc into the back, taking out the one that's ailing him. So Buffalo didn't want him to have the surgery, not allowing him to have the surgery. But they're also not allowing him to go to a different team to have a trade because their trade demands are so high. And it's just, basically just a hostage situation. They end up taking the captaincy away from him. And I think that might be a deterrent when it comes to their fans as well. Because think about how many people have, in Buffalo have Jack Eichel jerseys. And, I'm sure there's a split in their fan base between who wants him to move on, who doesn't want him to move on. Who sides with the organization, who sides with Jack Eichel, from the attendance standpoint, and from what the expectations were from the team, and it's clear what the fans, what side of the fence they're on, and it's a very unfortunate situation for everybody involved, and also for the NHL because the NHL doesn't really need this kind of situation under their umbrella.
No, and that's a good point. This could be the fans. I don't think that this is the fans saying, "Well, the team was garbage last year; they're going to be garbage this year." No, the fans are going to go opening night regardless. So, yeah, this is probably the fans sending a message to management. Like you said, you got half the people in the Eichel camp, the other half saying, "What if you're going to move them? Which side you're on?" They're both uniting here to say, do something. And, this is probably a revolt of the fans sending a message to management. I mean, it's happened before. Chicago, before they drafted Tays and Kane, before they had their run of 3 cups in 5 years, they had some really down years and an awful owner, a guy who just refused to put any money into the team. And so, Chicago Blackhawks, original six, one of the best fan bases, loudest buildings, there is. Fans just stopped going to the games. I mean, their attendance was horrendous, and it had nothing to do with, well, I'm not going because the team is terrible. This was a revolt against ownership. Sold the team. They got a new owner. They obviously drafted well, and fans came back. So I think we're looking at something similar here.
Yeah, it's a very ugly situation. Also, some news that broke earlier this week is Nikita Kucherov apparently has a super severe lower body injury. It's believed to be a groin, but there's no official reports on what part of the body it is. Severe enough where he was taken off of the ice, and he was ends up going on long-term injury reserve, which unfortunately, because of what happened last year and that whole saga that happened, basically people are like, making fun of it and making light of it when it's an unfortunate situation. I mean, if the guy has an injury that's gonna put him on long-term injury reserve, I mean that's awful. Looking at a possible surgery situation, this, unfortunately, I feel like fans. It's easy to talk about like $1 million people and stuff like that, and yeah, like they make a lot of money, but they're also real people. I mean, I'm pretty sure the amount of pain that Nikita Kucherov is going through right now is very severe, and not something that you would wish on anybody reasonably. And it's an unfortunate situation, but when you look at social media and everything, everybody's kind of just poking fun at it, like, oh, here we go again, and here's their like backdoor way to get a cup and all that. When Nikita Kucherov is in some super pain right now.
Yeah,
Thoughts on that?
yeah, they kind of the negative, like you said, you don't want to see a really bad injury, rivalry, hatred, whatever aside. You don't want to see a bad injury, but the fact that it's happened, they kind of walked in, not deserved. You can't really complain about the backlash that they're getting because of the way it was handled. And again, I never blamed Tampa for doing what they did. I mean, they found a loophole. They exploited that loophole to their benefit. Close the loophole. There's nothing wrong with the rules are the rules. If you got a bad rule, they clearly have a bad rule the way that salary cap set up. Change the rule. If they change it, they're going to do what they had to do, and they did. So that being said, and then he didn't help things with his post-cup press conference there. So that being said, they're kind of
T-shirt. He had one with I forgot about the T-shirt that he had where it was like mocking the whole thing too.
Yeah, 18 million over the cap, whatever. Yeah, you don't really see that in hockey. I was not a huge fan of that. We'll call it less than sportsmanlike. So that being said, again, you don't want to see the guy get hurt, but now that it's happened, you can't really complain. If you're a Tampa fan, you can't really complain about the comments that are being made in response to the situation. So yeah, that's you got two major stars out. Forgive me if I'm stepping on your toes here. I don't know if you were going to get to the Jack Hughes situation as well, but yeah,
no,
you don't want to
tell us about open up the Jack Hughes situation. What's going on?
Oh, he took a hit the other night. Actually, I was looking at headlines. I didn't even know. I was looking at headlines a little while ago. He's got a separated shoulder. I just saw the clip. It's not a great angle. It just hit into the corner. Hard to tell if it was a dirty hit. Hughes kind of lost his. I don't know if he lost his balance or was tripped, but he went in kind of horizontally into the boards after a check. And separated his shoulder. They ruled today he does not need surgery. So that's good. That means it's probably not season ending, but they haven't given a time frame yet. They have to evaluate him further. Just the way he fell was kind of ugly. And I think that he injured it on the fall rather than the hit into the boards. But I haven't seen enough angles and enough replays of it to see if it was dirty. It was ugly, just the way he fell. It may or may not have been a dirty hit. I don't know yet. But yeah, so he's out for a separated shoulder. That's if there's no. I'm not really off the top of my head. My sports injury time frames. I'm not sure, but the good news for him and Devils fans, of course, and hockey fans in general. Yes, we're both Ranger fans. We hate the Devils, but he's one of the future faces of the league. That is actually one of the he pretty much has arrived. He's pretty much one of the current new faces of the league. So you don't want to see that from a hockey fan's perspective, but it is what it is.
Yeah, he actually had a great start to the season too with the game winner the other night, and seemed like he was about to poised to put together a really good season. So definitely unfortunate for him. It's the injuries happen. They're a part of the game. That's why depth is so important on a lot of these rosters. And it's definitely an unfortunate situation. But I'd say the Kucherov situation, pretty much apples and oranges to this one, because it's just the Hughes is just like an unfortunate injury where the Kucherov one is kind of just getting blasted all over the place. I don't think any of the real sensible Ranger fans would make fun of Jack Hughes being hurt and things like that. The cynical ones obviously, but that's going to be in every fan base. But definitely not any kind of like reasonable Ranger fan or Islanders fan or anything like that. Yeah. So the Kucherov situation. We'll see how all of those and the Jack Hughes situation ends up working itself out. So we'll just since it's early in the season, we're not going to go through all the NHL teams, but what we could talk about is the ones that do not have a regulation win yet, and we're going to go backwards. We got Chicago, uh, the Coyotes, the Jets, and Calgary, who do not have a win, but they have an overtime loss, so they do have at least one registered point. The only NHL team that does not have a single point yet after 4 games is the Montreal Canadiens, who were the Stanley Cup finalists last year against the aforementioned Tampa Bay Lightning. So, what are your thoughts on what's going on there?
Well, Montreal actually doesn't surprise me, and I'm not going to go as far as to say they had an easy road to the finals because of the COVID edition divisions, because they didn't. I mean, Toronto was a cup contender, Vegas was a cup contender. You could even argue that Winnipeg was a very good team, if not a cup contender, so they deserved to be there. That being said, they got there pretty much because of Carey Price standing on his head. As Ranger fans, we know a little something about that.
Oh yeah.
But this is clearly not the same team. I mean, Price is out. Shea Weber's out. That right there. I mean, that's literally two solid all-stars, if not the best goalie in the league. So it's clearly not the same team, and so that's actually expected. I saw them play. I went up there on Saturday for the Ranger game. The Rangers. We know that they're a work in progress. They may be a playoff team, they may not. But in any case, when that game started, I said we're going to win this game. We have to win this game, and it was kind of touch and go there for a while, but neither team was really impressive. But Montreal, other than that one goal they had, which was a defensive lapse by the Rangers, I forgot which guy, he left his man. Other than that, Montreal didn't really do much. They actually being 0-4 doesn't really surprise me because they're not even close to the same team that they were last year.
Yeah, it's been a rough go of it. They also they lost a lot of depth with free agency, losing Philip Dandino, who ended up signing with the Los Angeles Kings, which was your face-off guy, and you're basically your kind of defensive specialist, I guess. If there's not a specific term in hockey for that, but pretty much that's what he was. They lost a lot of key pieces to that team, and it's very, very tough to overcome these kind of things. And the Price situation seems to be a mystery, which is unfortunate for him because he's one of the really all around good guys in the league, widely known as helping out the communities and doing a lot with sportsmanship and things like that. Shea Weber looks to be out for the year, might be out for the rest of his career, unfortunately, because of the amount of injuries that he sustained and what he's been able to go through there. So, that's your captain, and it's just it's a very tough situation going on in Montreal. So, since we're on the Montreal, since you were there Saturday in Montreal, so. For people at home that want to travel, and it's very tough. I think nowadays rather than before. Before you just regularly got some time off from work and you just bought a ticket and you were able to just go there, enjoy the game, have fun, spend a couple of days, come back. A very regular thing for fanatic sports fans like myself and many others. As far as going to Canada, how was the procedures in order to get the ticket, go over across the border and things like that? How difficult all these new regulations now?
It's not really difficult. It's just a couple extra things you have to do. And I went to Aruba in August, so the procedures were exactly the same. And I'm pretty sure pretty much traveling to any country now, you have to go through something similar. But there's an app. The government has an app. You download the app. Within 3 days and you can't put it has to be within 3 days of your travel time. They'll ask you how you're getting there, a bunch of questions. You have to, of course, be vaccinated. If it's a 2-shot vaccine, you got it. It had to have been within 14 days because they say, after 14 days after the second shot, it takes to be max effective. So you have to be fully vaccinated no sooner than 14 days before. So then a few days before, you fill out this app, upload your screenshots of your vaccine and all that, and then your flight info and whatnot, and then you have to get a full test, not the rapid test. You have to get a full, the big COVID test, which takes a couple days to get back. You have to get that. It has to be taken within 72 hours. So I went and did that. I left Thursday morning. I was there Thursday to Sunday. Monday morning, and I timed it so that Monday, my flight left at 6 a.m. I timed it to at about 7. I think I went and got the test to make sure that it was taken after the 72 hours. You get the test back. You complete filling out the app, and then you have to leave yourself extra time because they're going to ask for that. You can't check in online anymore, if international, because you have to show proof of the negative test to the ticket counter, and they're the ones who are actually going to issue your boarding pass. And then you show them when you're done with the app, and beforehand, you get a confirmation number from the government, from the Canadian government, that you've been granted access. So between the two, and then of course customs. So and then they've got the same thing there that New York's got going on. You have to show your vaccination and wear a mask anywhere you go, any restaurant. They have a vaccine passport with a actual QR code. It's just for Quebec residents. So just a screenshot of your vaccine information was fine, and show your license to passport so the name matches up. So it's just a couple extra steps. Just so if anyone is planning on going to Canada to take in the game, just make sure you leave yourself a good solid, get to the airport a good solid 2.5 to 3 hours. Just because everything has to be done at the counter. You might have to wait on that line. The customs line is going to be a little longer because they're asking some COVID questions. But it's not the biggest pain in the butt, but that's the world we live in now. So be it. I know people that just say, "Well, I'm not going to go. I refuse it." Well, you know what? Then don't go. Good. The line will be shorter for us.
So as far as overall, it's worth the travel and the trips and everything to travel for sporting events?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a great time when I was there, and like I said, you go to New York, it's the same thing anyway. Well worth it for the food and that atmosphere, because don't forget they didn't have fans last year when everybody else started letting fans back in, 1,000, then 2,000, then eventually to full. They did not. They had 0 fans through the start of the playoffs, and I think they went 1,000 for the third round, and maybe they upped it to 2,000 for the Stanley Cup Finals. So they're off the Stanley Cup Finals appearance, 2,000 people. The price of those tickets were, I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah,
but the average 20,000 fans that would normally be there hadn't been to a game in over a year. So it was the home opener. I mean, that place was absolutely nuts. You were there with me for that playoff game. You saw what it was like in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think this was every bit the same atmosphere. Those fans were hockey starved, and it was nice. There was a little bit of hostility in the playoffs. Didn't have that this time. I think everybody was just all friendly and like, hey, we're back. Just good to be back here. So I didn't really catch any crap this time around, but met some nice people. It was definitely a good time, and it was much nicer. And another feel good story from that. Alexis Lafreniere. This is his second season in the NHL, but his family had not seen him play yet because of the COVID restrictions. They couldn't come down to New York. There was we didn't play them at all last year because of the divisions.
That's right.
He couldn't come down to New York to go to a game at MSG. He couldn't cross the border. So this was his first game that he got to see Baby Boy play, and Baby Boy got the game-winning goal in the third period. There's a video clip they showed. They showed Dad going absolutely berserk when that happened. It was a really touching moment. It was nice. I love sports stories like that, especially when.
Yes, Alexis Lafreniere, the much heralded first overall pick from last year's draft, where the New York Rangers selected him number 1. Yeah, his hometown is Quebec, so that definitely makes a lot of sense, and that is definitely a great story that ended up unfolding there. Thank you very much for the information. I think I'm sure some people are hesitant. I'm sure some people, a little hesitant of how lengthy the process could be and if it would actually be worth it. But the Rangers and many other teams are going to be going back and forth from Canada, so it's definitely recommended to go ahead and make that trip. Just give yourself enough time. Pretty much like everything else going on in the world right now. So, any other surprises on the people who do not have a win yet? Maybe Chicago. I think Chicago is kind of a odd one with the Marc-Andre Fleury's going through his the worst start of his NHL career. Unfortunately, 1 year after he wins the Vezina, but he's also getting up there in age. What do you think? How quickly do you think he turns it around?
I don't know what would you say, how old is he? He's over 30, obviously. What you know how old he is offhand?
I'd say around 37, 38.
That's I don't know if he turns it around. I mean, that's old for a goalie. I mean, how many goalies have we seen go past that and still excel? I mean, I can count one in our era, Marty Brodeur, and Marty Brodeur is arguably the best goalie ever. I would put him at number 2 or 3 personally, but still, that's quite a number to be at. Top 3, unarguably. Uh, Beyond that, I mean, look at Lundqvist. What we just saw here. Lundqvist, going to the rafters this year. Easily first ballot Hall of Fame, and even he, completely dropped off in terms of his, being an elite, lights out goalie toward the end of his career. There, it was sad to see, but 37, 38 for a goalie is a lot older than 37, 38 for a regular player in my opinion, and that's still old. There's not a lot of those guys either still being effective. So I honestly dare I say, and he's a good guy. He's a really good dude too, and so I it hurt, but all Penguins' career and Stanley Cup aside, he might be done as far as being the starting goalie. He might be have to relegated to a backup role, 15 games a year or so, and he might be done as an elite starter or as a effective starter.
All right. Well, that's definitely not anything that Chicago can afford or planned on when they acquired him
Yeah.
from the Vegas Golden Knights. I think, a lot of the goalies you mentioned and a lot of what history would tell you is, there's a considerable drop off from year to year, but it would be, like a steady drop off. It's not going from winning a Vezina trophy to all of a sudden being regulated as somebody who wouldn't even be good enough as a backup. I think, it was an unfortunate situation that unfolded with the way the Vegas Golden Knights ended up trading him, and then he found out from Twitter feeds about the trade before even getting notification from the actual team itself, which is definitely not good. For what Marc-Andre Fleury meant to that city, being the face of the franchise, being the first one that was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Vegas. Even though he could have declined to go, and then Matt Murray would have ended up going, and then that would have, changed the whole course of history. But the Marc-Andre Fleury definitely helped that Vegas Golden Knight team take off, and they had the world changing event that happened where a bunch of lives were lost in Vegas, and he was like basically the Golden Knights were one of the things that returned everybody back to normalcy, and the fact that they were doing really well. Have a couple, Stanley Cup Finals appearance, and then competitively in the playoffs every year. A lot of that was attributed to him and what he brought to that franchise, and then they end up just basically kicking him to the curb. And then he ended up, saying that he was just going to retire, and then he's like, all right, well, I'll go play for the Blackhawks, and then now, it's an unfortunate start to the season for him. Just a really sad course of events. I think he ends up pulling it together. I don't think there's going to be another Stanley Vezina finalist appearance for him, those days might be done. But I think he'll pull it together and end up being a serviceable goaltender at least. But you got to imagine from like a person standpoint, a people standpoint, where it's very understandable if like the life is kind of sucked out of him a little bit. It's just very weird situation that ended up unfolding between him and the Golden Knights, and basically separating from the city that he had done so much for after going through all of that with Pittsburgh. Just for a longer set of time. Very unfortunate situation.
Yeah, that and the way that it went down. I mean, look, if you need, it's a business. Sports is a business. We saw that. We weren't happy with Zuccarello getting traded. Brian Leach. It happens. It's a business. It's a salary cap league. But the way it went down, unacceptable. For him to find out on Twitter rather than from the GM or the coach, I would settle for a player on the team. You find out you're traded, and you literally, again, he's a good guy, and like you said, he's the face of the franchise from day one. He is the reason that they went to the finals and were a competitive and playoff team every year of their existence since day one, and that's just unacceptable for him to find out he got traded from Twitter. So they told the GM told a sports reporter before they told the guy. Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
So unfortunately, it could be a coincidence, but probably not. It's just a tough situation over there. So hopefully, Marc-Andre Fleury, which is another one of those widely known as good guys around the league, doesn't really have a lot of people that hate him and things like that. So hopefully, he ends up working out and being more of himself throughout the rest of his season, which could very well be his last season. All right, so the NBA has opened up. We're only like 1 or 2 games in for certain teams. It's opened up earlier this week, so we'll touch on that in future shows. Just locally, the Knicks ended up winning their opener yesterday in double overtime in super fun fashion against the Boston Celtics, where they actually blew a 10-point lead with like 30 seconds left, and then ended up still coming out with the victory. So they learned a valuable lesson while also still getting the victory under their belt. And then the New Jersey Nets lost to the Brooklyn Nets lost to the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. So long season ahead. More talk of NBA when we get and past and further shows. But we have a couple of minutes left in the show. We're just going to touch on the NFL real quick. And so right now we have the Arizona Cardinals, who are the only undefeated team at 6-0. What do you think?
That's people thought that the Cardinals were going to be decent this year, but 6-0. I don't think anyone really saw that coming. That's turning into an incredible division right there. You've got them, and of course the Rams. Stafford clearly needed to get off of Detroit. So, and of course, you can't count the Niners out in this era. So that's an incredible story. I mean, good for the Cardinals because Arizona could surely use a winner in something. I would assume it's been 2001 Diamondbacks. I would assume was their last title. So
100%.
Yeah. So no, good for the Cardinals, and they're one of those teams that like. Nobody hates the Cardinals. Like nobody can, unless you're a division rival fan of a team. There, you can't one good reason why anyone possibly hate the Arizona Cardinals. So good for them.
I have to agree 100%. They made a big trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, and they got Zach Eggerts from the defensive end. So that just gives them another passing attack weapon to go to, and it's seems like a very exciting bunch over there. So definitely that division with them and the Rams with Matthew Stafford doing an amazing job. So on the other end of the spectrum from that specific trade and just the from the teams undefeated to the totally defeated is Jared Goff, and the Detroit Lions are the only team that do not have a win at 0-6.
That's not surprising. I remember, Jared Goff had that great year with the Rams and, maybe 2, but I'm actually friends with a few Rams fans, believe it or not, like real ones, and they knew right away. They said, "No, he's playing above his head. This is not Jared Goff. He's not an elite quarterback." They kind of compared him to Mitch Trubisky. He had that great year with Chicago, and then completely dropped off the planet. I believe I drafted him the next year in my fantasy in like the third round. It was like the worst fantasy pick I've ever made in my life. It was a bad one, but yeah, Detroit's just Detroit. That's 0-6 for the Lions. Business as usual, unfortunately, because there's a team that deserves a bone every now and then. But no, I mean, Jared Goff, great year. They did go to a Super Bowl. I think, didn't he? Did that Rams team go to? I don't remember. They were very good, but from what I hear from Rams fans, that was an anomaly, and it looks like was not. He played above his head for a year or two.
Yeah, it definitely puts Matthew Stafford in the clear when it comes to as far as like great quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks, because he's always put up the numbers, but you never hear his name and when you talk about like elite quarterbacks, top quarterbacks, things like that. So now he's definitely on the map, and it's a great trade for him personally, and great trade for the Los Angeles Rams, and then like to flip the coin, now that there's so much media backlash going, basically it's like a war of words publicly with Jared Goff and the head coach for the Detroit Lions, and it's just a very, very ugly situation. So that's definitely not going to get better anytime soon, which is unfortunate for the Detroit fans. Like they already have enough losing to go around, and enough like super uncompetitive teams. I guess I can empathize because I'm a New York Jets fan and we go through this as well. So you go through the losing, and it hurts enough, and you have your diehard fan bases, and you have your attendance, and you have the people that just want to go to these games just to have a reunion with everybody else, and have these parties, and just basically like a family event. And then then you go through the losing, which sucks, and then you have to go through the extra circus hoops, which is just really deflating when it comes to the fan base. And the residual effect that it drops down to the fans, and the fans are the ones that suffer the most. Because they Garrett Golf and the head coach could go at it all they want, but everybody's still getting paid. They're all still getting millions, while the fans they're the ones paying out of pocket, and they have to deal with this circus stuff, and it's very, very unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, like we were just talking about with the Buffalo. So yeah, it's. And the whole thing is kind of swept under the rug on the national scene because it is great. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's not fair to the fans. You got season ticket holders that have been every single year in, year out, same, different circus, say different backstory, same circus, however you want to say it. I mean, the results on the field have been the same, and pretty much year in, year out since Barry Sanders from there. So, not a good scene right now, and in Detroit. And like you said, it's good to see Stafford because he had that ridiculous contract, and I remember seeing his record against against playoff teams or teams with winning records, and it was like abysmal. But clearly, he was not the issue there. He did what he could, but when you're on the Detroit Lions, you can only do so much, and it's good to see him. Thriving in LA with the Rams and finally getting his chance to be for a Super Bowl.
Definitely exhilarated his career and future Hall of Fame status too, if he keeps this up. As far as at least that it wasn't him. It was basically the organization itself. But there's a lot of time between now and then in order for him to write his Hall of Fame career script. So we'll just get into the local news now. So we have the New York Jets, who are 1-4, and we have the New York Giants that are 1-5. Thoughts on that?
The Giants disappoint. Of course, they disappoint me, but that's disappointing as a Giants fan because, even though they started off 0-3, that after that Saints game was great. It was a great comeback. They won in overtime. That's a very good Saints team and a very, very hostile place to play. And, the Giants were firing on all cylinders. Then when you look back at the games they lost, you said, well, the Giants could have been 3-1. So they weren't. They are what they are. They're 1-3. But now all of a sudden you're playing Dallas, who at the time was 3-1. You basically the Giants control their own destiny there on that game. They win that game. They're one game back at first with the tiebreaker over Dallas, and the entire team got hurt.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones got concussed. Saquon, feel terrible for Saquon.
Awful.
Just was looking and stepped on a dude's foot. Galladay, Blake Martinez. I mean, geez, the entire team. And, of course, they got blown out there, and they got blown out again. So, if you told me going into the season the Giants would be 1-5 at this point, I'd say, I guess they really didn't fix anything. But they were actually starting to click, and we were optimistic. And, like I said, they held the season in the palm of their hand there in that Dallas game, and the whole damn team got hurt. And now we're competing for draft picks again. So that is disappointing. As for your Jets, I know that they played Atlanta pretty decently. And, of course, you got to be happy. Zach Wilson is showing, say, at least from what I'm seeing, signs of improvement, signs that he might be the guy.
Well, as far as the New York Jets go, I'll cut you off. And we just basically the Jets just play half a game now, half a game of competitive football. They either start off or they end it with not being all that great. But they have like bits and spurts. I wouldn't say they've put a full game together, even with the Tennessee game. Which is the one that they ended up winning. And Tennessee's 4-2 right now, which doesn't really. It says what their capabilities are, but they were coming from. They were chasing in that game too. So it's just it's a work in progress. I think as far as New York teams go, they both got one loss, but I think it's really apples and oranges. I think it was the Giants. Like you said, they were coming together, and then they ended up having the injuries. And if there's one sport that depth is important, it's definitely NFL, because the injuries are going to happen. It's like as much a part of the game as any other sport. And it's just, it's unfortunate, that they had those set of injuries there for Dallas, and then they absolutely got railroaded against the 5-1 Rams. But, the New York Jets are just, they're just basically just playing half a game. And that's the unfortunate part of it. But it's also the growing pains, too. It's going to happen. That's kind of what we expected this year as a fan base. Anyway, so no real shockers there. The Giants are a bit disappointing, but, they've been kind of having rough years recently. So just as far as New York teams go, you gotta look at the Buffalo Bills, who were 4-2. They had a rough loss against the aforementioned Tennessee Titans, who actually played their game against Buffalo. It's probably it's probably a class. Basically the Jets game was a trap game, and the Buffalo Bills are 4-2 right now, and they're picked by many to be a Super Bowl favorite, and they're the best team. They're the best football team in New York. Can't deny it. They have more wins themselves since 2017 than the Jets and the Giants have combined. And they actually do play in New York, where the other two teams play in New Jersey. So, unfortunately, the Buffalo Bills are the best team in New York.
Yeah, they are. They've been on the cusp for a couple of years now, and we were wondering, is this for a couple of years now? Are we wondering, is this the year the Bills? What are we doing with this Bills team? And now it looks like they have finally arrived. So good for them. I mentioned they've got some great loyal fans there. So I know they're a division rival of yours, so you might not be sharing in that. But I'm all in favor of. They've lost. There's a fan base that is starting. The 4 straight Super Bowl losses, one of them on a missed field goal, and it wasn't even a very long one. I should know the yardage by now with the Scott Norwood miss, but I don't know. Say 40. I want to say low 40s, maybe 40s. Wasn't it was makeable, but so good for them for being a contender. They got a lot of good pieces there. They got Stephon Diggs was a big pickup. Maryland guy, so I'm always rooting for him. Good for the Bills. I'll tell you what to say. What my biggest shocker is the Chiefs at 3-3.
Yeah.
Their defense was always suspect. But now, I actually get some good Chiefs insight. My girlfriend's son is a lifelong diehard Chiefs fan. And he said right away, he said it when 3 games ago. He said this is going to be the year of what could have been, because the defense is just. He said he sees bad Chiefs defenses. This might be the worst one. They can't stop anything. So That's the biggest shock right there. This is, the Chiefs. I mean, they're not out of contention, but this is, from what we've seen for the Chiefs in the last few years, it's weird that Mahomes is still young, still top of the league. So it's just weird to see the Chiefs, not really being mentioned in the names in the conversation of Super Bowl contenders just 6 games into the season.
Yeah, definitely. They are. We could put a pause on all that future dynasty talk for now with the Kansas City Chiefs. But we have to wrap up our show now. Thank you very much, Scott Blanda, for stopping by again.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll be back next week. My name is Alfonso Caldero, LDM Radio Sports Talk.